Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and today on the docket, we're going to get civil. We're talking about civil litigation that could turn into criminal actions. Why? Because Big Pharma's feeling the pain, and an Indianapolis woman who should have just taken a chill pill. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. If you like the channel, please hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. And if you leave a comment, we greatly appreciate that as well. And hit that little notification bell if you'd like to receive notification of when we put out new videos or when we go live. But first on the docket today, Johnson & Johnson is feeling the pain. Why, you say? Because a district court judge in the state of Oklahoma brought down a $500 million judgment against Johnson & Johnson yesterday for their involvement of what Oklahoma alleges is their opioid crisis. And the government wants Johnson & Johnson, along with 12 other defendants in that particular case, to pay their fair share of the harm that the state has now proven to a district court judge. Now we have a shameless commercial break to pump our merchandise, but hold on 1 second, it'll be worth it. And one more thing, and I know some people think it's unbecoming, but if you like the Crime Talk mug, hit the link below. Go to the link. There's more merchandise, Crime Talk merchandise. You can get shirts, you can get mugs, you can get sweatshirts. And guess what? For the upcoming Labor Day holiday, there's going to be a special reduced prices, because why? We want everybody to have a Crime Talk mug. And guess what? We're going to market. And there's no fraud or deception going on here. It's the intended use. But guess what? You may become addicted to Crime Talk, but we warned you. And so it was alleged that Johnson & Johnson, through its subsidiaries and other pharmaceutical companies, dumped, for lack of a better term, opioids out on the street. And those included oxycodone, hydrocodone, morphine, codeine, fentanyl, surfentanil, bupropion, hydromorphormone, and naloxone. Now, what are all those big words really mean? That's code for opioids. That's code for heroin. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The things that people went to war for in China and Hong Kong and the British, heroin, that's what this is. Synthetic heroin. Does it have medicinal purposes? Yes, it can be used to treat the pain. That's what it was supposedly used for. But we all know people are going to abuse it. Now, this was a civil case. The Attorney General brought this civil case in state courts saying that these companies participated and were a public nuisance, and therefore they had to pay. The lengthy history of how synthetic opioids came about. And it's kind of interesting that Dr. Paul Janssen originally invented fentanyl in the late 1950s. And there was concern as far back as then that fentanyl can and always will be abused. Fentanyl, which is a Schedule II controlled substance, has the highest potential for abuse. Well, these companies set up, for lack of a better term, pain management franchises. And they have, if anyone's ever heard the term pain management doctors, some people need pain management doctors. I've never seen anything good come from it. And this basically legalized distribution of drugs. Now, I'm sure somebody will say, no, I went to a pain management doctor for all those years, and everything's fine. It was alleged that the defendants, acting in concert with others, embarked on a major campaign in which they used branded and unbranded marketing to disseminate the message that pain was being untreated, that there was a low risk of abuse, and a low danger of prescribing opioids to treat chronic pain and overstating the efficiency of opioids as a class of drugs. What does that really mean? They were pushing their drugs. They were sending out their salesmen to tell the doctors, if your patient is in pain, it's because you are not prescribing enough pain meds for him. These companies would wine and dine the doctors, give them samples, and basically tell them to push the opioids. The ultimate message was that if the doctors had patients who were in pain, that they were actually mistreating their patients by allowing them to suffer through the pain. Manufacturing companies would use phrases like pseudo addiction to convince doctors that patients who exhibited signs of addiction, for example, asking for higher and higher doses of opioids or returning to the doctor early before a prescription should not have run out, were not actually suffering from addiction, but from the undertreatment of pain, and the solution, according to the doctor's marketing team, was to prescribe more opioids, which is what they did. And the doctors prescribed, and the pharmacy filled those orders. And it makes you ask a question of the whole situation here. Now, I have represented doctors, a case in which the pharmacy in a small town was distributing more opioids than a Denver Central Hospital. And the case was actually prosecuted because it was easily recognizable that the pharmacist was a mill. He was trading various things for these drugs. The doctors didn't care because they had their patients keep coming back and they were submitting their bills to Medicaid. But they would say, oh, I was just treating my patient. So the lawyers, the mass tort lawyers, and I would love to be a mass tort lawyer getting a percentage of billions and billions of dollars. That would be fabulous. Could you imagine all the good that could take place in the world? Absolutely. Now, these companies would have continued to push the pills. The doctors push the pills. The pharmacies fulfill the subscription, whereby the companies supply the pharmacy. They were all necessary players. Don't you think some of these doctors knew what the heck was going on? Don't you think some of these pharmacists knew what was going on? Even bigger question, where the hell was the DEA? Let's face it, the DEA is supposed to monitor these things. Doctors that prescribe medicines have their DEA number so that they can be tracked as to how many pills they are prescribing for controlled substances. I can't imagine it's that difficult to see if a doctor is writing the largest percentage of the opioid prescriptions. It's not. So, why are these cases not being prosecuted on a criminal level as well? But what happens when somebody catches on and they finally say, we can't give you any more prescription pills? What happens? The people then turn to the streets where they can go buy pills for $20 to $40 a piece. Or guess what? They can run down and buy a little thing of heroin and get the real good stuff, so to speak. And then they start shooting it up, injecting it. And then you see what we see on the streets in the news today, people lying on the streets, syringes everywhere. Why? It's an opioid addiction. So whether you're shooting up your junk from a street dealer or you're getting it from your pharmacist, it's still heroin. And if it's not a legitimate medical reason for it, those people that are prescribing it, the people that failed to identify what was going on, should be prosecuted as well, both civilly and potentially criminally. For years and years, doctors stated that, and now it's more prevalent, that no one should receive any more than 3-day supply after a major surgery of some sort of synthetic heroin for pain purposes. It's generally accepted that if somebody is going back after 3 days for more pills because they ran out or the pain is still there, that they are now physically addicted to heroin. And the only way you can get off of that is you have to get that poison out of your system, but it is so addictive. It destroys lives. Oklahoma Attorney General threw in the kitchen sink. This is a legislator's dream list of everything that they could ask for. First of all, they asked for an abatement plan that would cost, on average, in 1 year, $107 million. They want to implement a screening process for all prenatal cases, and that's almost $2 million. Abatement costs, they believe, will actually be about $20 million per year. The Oklahoma Law Enforcement Agency's Licensing Board and Oklahoma Office of the Chief Medical Examiner has been overwhelmed by cases of opioid and needs to conduct investigations and don't have the necessary staffing and resources. Therefore, it's estimated that they would need additional funds of some $500,000 per year. Veterinary Board, the Osteopathic Board, will now require more people. The Nursing Board would require more people to investigate claims regarding opioid use. The Medical Licensing and Supervision Boards is going to require more screening. The Dentistry Board is going to require additional people to screen. The Attorney General's office is going to need more money to hire more people to supervise all the boards, getting more prosecutors to go after the vets, the dentists, the nurses, and Medicaid fraud, and as well as other councils as well. Victim services will need more money. And so the court ultimately concluded, like I said, it was $500 million for the first year, and they believe that it'll take at least 20 years to work, and the state did not present sufficient evidence of the amount of time and cost necessary beyond year one. So they are permitted to come back and ask for more money every year after year. Does this sound very familiar to the tobacco litigation cases of yesteryear? Yes, it does. What's the common trend? Big business knew something was bad. They knew something was addictive. They went forward with it. They marketed it because that's their job. You know, the old Mad Men thing. Let everybody know that we're going to fix it all up and everything's okay. And they did that. So now they're going to be disgorged of their profits. Now the question is, will they be disgorged of their liberty? The people that were in charge, the people distributing it, the pharmacists, the doctors, where were they? Where are they? Hate to bring everybody down on the opioid story because it's kind of a crossover between civil and criminal. But what we do know is a woman in Indianapolis should have taken a chill pill. Ivory Smith, who's 36, told authorities that she fatally shot William Johnson, 37, and his infant nephew on Saturday in their home in Indianapolis. According to her, she just snapped. Miss Smith told the investigators that she and Mr. Wilson had a violent argument, which ultimately led to his demise. Miss Smith also went to Mr. Wilson's mother's room, and she was injured as well. And then to make things even a little more unusual is that Miss Smith called 911 and sat calmly waiting for the police to arrive. That's all we've got on Crime Talk today. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.